So welcome back to Photoshop. This is where we're going to create a lot of our digital assets and social media campaign graphics. I have this set up here. I'm using the artboard system in Adobe Photoshop to be able to create lots of different sizes for our Facebook campaign in one nice, easy to have file. If you have an older version of Photoshop, you will not have the artboard tool available. You would just create a new file for each one that we do together. But I'm going to show you a little bit how the artboard system works. So if you are interested in having this easy to use system, you can do it. And also this file is going to be available for download. So here's how the artboard system works. So you're going to click on the move tool, and there's going to be a little thing called artboard tool. So you're going to select the artboard tool, and you're going to be able to add different sizes, and you're going to go ahead and put in whatever size it would be. So 1200 by 628 is your standard Facebook ad size. And we're just going to click on add new artboard. Click anywhere on here. It's going to add a new one. Of course, you can shift this anywhere around. And if you want to change the name, you go to your layering system and you just double click and you can change the name right there. And you can add as many as you want. You can even do Instagram ads and Facebook ads all in the same file, and when you export them as JPEGs, it'll export them all as separate JPEGs, saving you a ton of time than having to have an individual file for each size. If you want to delete one, you just go ahead and press the delete button after you highlight the name and you're ready to go. But I just wanted to kind of show you how I set this up. It's a lot quicker to do all these campaigns that sometimes require 20 different sizes. So let's go ahead and get started with the first one. We're going to start with the smallest and get a little bit bigger. So the first one is the Facebook profile pic. So this is going to be our simple logo. We're going to be using Illustrator, everything we've done in Illustrator, and dragging and dropping vector smart objects into Photoshop. And one more thing I wanted to bring up, because I think this is pretty important. When I created a new document, I just created kind of the first size and then added the artboards. I did do a 300 resolution, and you may think, wow, 300 is for print. That's overkill. Well, the great thing about social media platforms is they don't limit your sizes. So Facebook, Instagram, all of those will downgrade it to whatever they need for their server. So I usually like to design them at a higher resolution and just have them downgraded. I just kind of feel like I want to have something that's higher than a 72 dpi, especially for those who have those Retina high resolution displays, which are pretty much everywhere on mobile phones now. It's hard to buy one without a really high resolution screen, so I'd like to keep up with that. The only limitation is when we create display ads for different websites, they do have size limitations, so I do create those in 72 dpi because they have those requirements. But anything done for a big platform where you upload the photo yourself and they don't have those limitations, I like to do a high resolution size. So just a little trick of kind of how I've survived the upgrade of everybody's high resolution screens. I kind of create my digital ads in a high 300 dpi resolution. So let's do this Facebook profile pic. We have our logo here and it's already in what we need to have it in RGB. So we're going to go ahead and just drag this over. And when I drag it over, it becomes a vector smart object. So it continues to remain vector so I can resize it without any issue. If I ever wanted to rasterize this and to be able to do a bunch of photo editing on this particular graphic, I can go to my vector smart object here, right click, and I could be able to rasterize, and then it will be like any other raster photo. But I'm going to keep it vector because I'm not quite sure if I want to keep it exactly where it is. We're just going to line that up. I love the guide, the smart guides in Photoshop. That's why I like doing all my digital assets in Photoshop, is I have this little smart guides. And another thing, I've done social media campaigns in Adobe Illustrator, and that's fine because you get to keep it in vector and you move things around. It's really easy to do it in Illustrator as well. The thing I love about Photoshop is it has a lot better exporting options when it comes to reducing file size. So I kind of like the exporting options of Photoshop a little bit better than Illustrator when it comes to digital assets. And that's why you see a lot of people use Photoshop. But I've used Illustrator before to do social media campaigns. So the Facebook profile pic is done and we can move on. It's going to be the easiest one. It's going to get a little bit harder. So this will be a Facebook cover photo for their business page. So this will be the main business page where people can like it and get updates. It's not going to be the event page, but their business page. And I'm going to make sure I drag things here. This little orange box is the mobile safe area that I've added. You can download this template if you want. And I'm going to go ahead and save this so I can give you the original template. This orange area means whenever you see it on mobile view, the left and right sides do get cropped down. So we got to avoid the use of anything important on the white areas so that when it does get cropped from mobile view, you don't have issues. So I'm going to keep that in mind when I create this. So this is when we need to go back and figure out, we have all these things we've created for the class. We have a horizontal orientation. We have a banner. What do we think is going to be the most effective to kind of borrow from for this particular page? So I'm kind of thinking this is more simple and clean, but it doesn't quite have the same personality as the postcard. And then the poster is a different orientation, so we can use that for other digital ads, especially skyscraper display ads. So let's kind of be thinking maybe a combination. We have this loose design system. We can kind of do a combination of things. So first things first, I like the logo on the white honeycomb. Place that front and center. And let's also see, let's separate all this out. We already have this saved, so we can destroy this as much as we'd like. I like the idea of bringing this in. And another thing I like with working with the artboard system in Photoshop as opposed to Illustrator is when I have an asset that pours over to the next artboard, it doesn't show. In Illustrator it does show, and you're always having overlapping elements and your different artboards interacting, and I love the way Photoshop keeps it totally independent on its own layer. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of position this where I think it would be kind of neat to have intercepting lines. And let's see what else we can drag over. And all these are really, really big because it's a print document. So perhaps I could scale this down before I bring it in, and that could help with the time it takes to bring it in. It might take too long if I make it high resolution, but if I make it smaller first, it'll be imported in a lot quicker. Maybe apply that blending mode on there so that screens back. It looks like that has a drop shadow that was brought in. So anytime you have a drop shadow that you don't want to bring in, I'm just going to go to my properties panel, or I think in this case I need to ungroup it and just bring it in without it, just so it has a more clean look. And I can always add a drop shadow in Photoshop and add that a little better. So as I'm trying to arrange and find the best way for it to fit with this particular orientation, I am also thinking about the kind of type we need to have on this. So this is a cover photo for a business Facebook page. So what the most important thing to advertise for this conference is the date. So I want to be able to bring in the date, and I believe our poster had kind of a lot of this information that we can have here. So let's go ahead and grab this area or this item and see how we can incorporate this. And so we would put it here because this is a nice empty area. But if you'll notice, if I toggle on that mobile safe area, and let me go ahead and bring this up to the front, it's going to get cut off. So I have to be careful to keep the type within this mobile safe area, or the type will get cut off in mobile. So that will limit us a little bit in how we can display this information. So it's good to keep that in mind. I may need to make the logo a little bit smaller in this case. These little pink lines really give us an indication of alignment as well. So if I drag this over, I get a little pink line in the center. I know it's center aligned to the total artboard, which is very handy. About the artboard system, if I feel like, okay, that's okay, but let me try a more simple arrangement, I can just add a new one next to it and see if I can't do a better version. What's great about this is I can kind of copy this over and pop it on this artboard. Let's give it another try, and let's maybe do a more simplistic layout. Perhaps one that is inspired by the billboard or the big poster. So I like the idea of keeping the 2020 there as well. So this can be a decision for a client which one they prefer, this kind of arrangement or the other arrangement, and we can always switch around things here just to provide kind of a different perspective for the client, just trying to find different combinations of shapes that could look good. So let's move down to the ad. So the ad's going to be something we're going to have to spend a little bit more time on. We're thinking about advertising to the public and doing paid advertising. And with ads, Facebook really limits the amount of text you can put on them. So if you can do anything, is just limit the total amount of type that you put on here. You really just need the date, because everything else you could say in the copy or the description below the image. So really this is about being visual and about having the logo on there, and it's a little bit less about telling them everything about it, because that's going to, all those details are going to be put in the ad. So think about that when you're doing ads. Ads can get rejected by Facebook if they have too much type on there. So we're going to bring in our essential elements. We already have these together. So let's just duplicate, just holding down Option and dragging into my Facebook ad. And we want to make this big enough so they can really see the conference name. And I thought we could do something very, very similar to the postcard. And this would probably be all the type that we'd want to have on it, is these two items. Any more than that, it would risk getting rejected. So we can have a headline, or we can have kind of this 8 breakout item. Let me make sure I have all the type brought in there. Yes. So this might be it. So we just need to work around this and kind of do visual stuff for the rest of the ad. So I already think this arrangement is strong, and it's also a very similar size. So I'm going to make this a lot smaller and bring it in, because if I bring it in a large size, it's going to be way too big for this small little ad. So it just kind of helps me bring it in faster.